It gets to where that you just when your natural language, you just can't say it with natural word. Rejoice evermore. Oh, Brother Copeland, what have I got to rejoice about? Hey, you're breathing. I rejoice. I rejoice. I rejoice. I rejoice. What is that? I rejoice. I rejoice. I rejoice. Rejoice. May I demonstrate. You can do that standing in the grocery line. It gets to where that you just when your natural language, you just can't say it with natural word. Rejoice evermore. Oh, Brother Copeland, what have I got to rejoice about? Hey, you're breathing. I rejoice. I rejoice. I rejoice. I rejoice. What is that? I rejoice. I rejoice. I rejoice. Rejoice. May I demonstrate. You can do that standing in the grocery line. Oh, yeah. And you get out of there and you get in your car, you turn to the radio and say, shut up. What do you suppose happened after that? And it was so good. Yes. Well, Brother Copeland, all things work for good. No, they don't. No. Oh, Brother Copeland, what have I got to rejoice about? Hey, you're breathing. I rejoice. I rejoice. I rejoice. I rejoice. What is that? I rejoice. I rejoice. I rejoice. Rejoice. May I demonstrate. Lest oss skåra mot det likt och slåmara där nere för att få komma mot det. Nandrona skele och kring och oh yeah, oh rejoice, oh yeah, look what happened there. Say yes, oh yes, rejoice. Oh, you pay attention to me. And something starts coming. And it was so good. No longer be afraid of COVID-19.
Spike Cohen.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the Vanguard. I really need to start writing down the ones I come up with in the middle of the week because I don't remember them on the fly on Showtime. Spike, the most kvetching man in the liberty movement, Cohen. I am Matt Wright, and together we are traversing the muddied waters of freedom.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining. Of course, this is a Muddy Waters Media production. Check us out everywhere, all social media platforms, all podcasting platforms, including wherever you're listening to or watching this right now. And wherever you are listening to or watching this right now, if you have not already, be sure to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the thing is on the thing that you are doing your thing on. And we're back.
I was going to say, I'm digging the new black that you have behind you, and then you just went and changed it.
Yes. Well, I didn't change it. It just came back at the right time, but we're back.
Oh, were we gone?
Yeah, for about 4 seconds.
Oh, okay. First and foremost, allow me to thank Benjamin Daniel Morris Chestnut the 17th for the kava I am drinking on today's episode.
And allow me to thank Le Bleu for this delicious water that doesn't pay us to say that. Ulavanaka.
Ulavanaka.
Like for them too. Yum.
So, Spike, who's this episode brought to us today by?
This episode is brought to you, of course, by this special episode, this Wednesday episode, because I wasn't able to do Tuesday because I was flying all day yesterday, is brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the second largest and the fastest growing caucus in the Libertarian Party. Become a part of the takeover today by joining the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus by going to the exclusive Facebook group that lets anyone in called Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus. Or, of course, you can go to muddywatersmedia.com and press the store button to become an official voting member, which means absolutely nothing, by buying Waffle House Caucus buttons and T-shirts. The Gravy King!
Just real quick on the Waffle House thing, it shouldn't be the takeover. It should be the smothering and covering.
Even better. Join the smothering, cothering, capping, and dicing of the Libertarian Party by joining the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus. The Gravy King! Stitches and glitches and defy the power. If you would like a tumbler like this. Well, not like that because the green screen's catching it.
Because the green
one
screen.
That isn't translucent like this. Or like that, but you know what? They'll probably make one like this. They know how to do it. If you want a tumbler, like the one that we're going to be auctioning off next weekend, that is signed by both Matt Wright. Next week? What did I say? Weekend? Next week?
Yep.
By Matt and myself. If you want a tumbler that keeps your hots hot and your colds cold for an ungodly number of hours, they also have water pipe fittings. Not bongs, that's illegal, but water pipes. Water pipes. You can get that if you go to Defy the Power or stitchesandglitches.com. They also have free customization, which is insane. They will customize your tumbler with whatever the hell you want on it. But if you want one that's signed by us, you have to come next week because we're going to be auctioning this baby off next week. But in the meantime, you can go to Stitches and Glitches or Defy the Power and get your tumbler today, Matt.
As many of you may know, next week is my birthday and Spike's anniversary.
Yeah.
These two things are not related, which is why we'll be doing the tumbler auction next week. But as you may also know, I am a huge Red Sox fan. It is part of my identity, some would say. So Superfan Sarah Anderegg, being the wonderful and caring, kind, perfect person that she is, purchased tickets to a spring training game of the Red Sox versus the Orioles. You're already looking bored by this story.
No, that's cool.
Hang on.
Okay.
So I was like, that's amazing. Thank you so much. But at the time, the players were locked out because Rob Manfred, the MLB commissioner, is a douchebag. So what ended up happening is they came to an agreement and they've got a new collective bargaining agreement. And so they're like, yay, we're going to put the games back on. It's like, awesome. They redid the schedule. So now the Orioles are playing the Pirates instead at their home stadium instead of the Red Sox. And Vivid Seats won't refund our ticket money because they said it's the same event.
How is it the same event?
Vivid Seats is saying that the Orioles are the headliners and you bought tickets to an Orioles game. So it is the same event that isn't at the same time either. It's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon as opposed to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're playing a different team, but they're saying it's the same event because the Orioles are playing in their stadium.
Okay, I'm from Baltimore. In what ring of hell is are the Orioles the main
headline?
draw?
Yeah, the headliner.
The headline.
And my argument to Vivid Seats, because
It's not even the same time.
No, it's 6 o'clock. The old one was 6 o'clock, and this one's at 1.
What?
Yeah. So my argument was, imagine you bought tickets to the oddly scheduled Eric Clapton concert that the Rolling Stones are opening for.
Yes.
And then the Rolling Stones backed out and Nickelback took their place. This is the equivalent of what is happening here. And they said, then he hung up on me. He must have been a Nickelback fan.
Nickelback fan. You right. Found a Nickelback fan, yeah.
I did, yeah. And he hung up on me. So our options, as told by Vivid Seats, which nobody use Vivid Seats for anything. But our options, as Vivid Seats told us, is we can go to the game that has two teams that we don't care about or like particularly, or we can sell the tickets. And oddly enough, there are a lot of tickets on the market for that game, which means that we'd be losing money either way.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah. So I either have to go watch the Orioles and the Pirates on my birthday, which it's baseball, and I love baseball. So, I would be okay with it.
It's still baseball, but it's the Orioles and the Pirates, meaning that it's kind of baseball.
It's kind of like it. Yeah. It's like you could go see the Rolling Stones and Eric Clapton, or you can go see your kid's friend's garage band when they're 7.
Which is essentially the same thing.
Same thing. A concert is happening at that time, or at that place on that date, not even the same time.
The same thing. A similar thing was at South by Southwest, which I spoke at a couple days ago. It originally was going to be an Eminem concert, and then instead it was me. Same thing. You're at South by Southwest. Same thing.
Right. Same thing.
It's the same thing. Me and Larry Sharp, Eminem and Dr. Dre.
Yeah. That's
same thing.
Exactly. Same thing.
Possibly
same
better.
Thing.
Possibly even better.
Well, I see you speak for free every Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday.
Fine. Eminem will talk for free on the internet.
That's true.
He
does. Literally all the time. But South by Southwest was good.
Yes, it was good. Larry and I talked with a lady named Nalini Stamp, who is with the Working Families Party. We had a panel there sponsored by Liberty Live about how third-party candidates are growing and how we can finally break through the duopoly and work together. It was a really good thing. And then I got to hang out at South by Southwest, which was intense. It's like a giant house party fell from the sky on the city of Austin, Texas. And I was only there for the tech and civics part, which is supposedly the less attended part. And supposedly 100,000 more people came today and are now part of the music part that's starting earlier today.
The music part there is nuts. That is a wild time.
It was insane. Everything was packed. And I kept thinking, I'm it gets bigger than this. And they're yeah, it gets way bigger than this. I'm holy crap. No, it was, yeah, good point. Kenneth Ebel says, how many votes did Eminent get? I bet it was less than 2 million.
Hang on a second.
I don't care how many albums he sold. I want to know specifically how many votes did he get for Vice President of the United States?
Oh, well, see, now we're being more specific. I was going to look up votes for Male Performer of the Year.
No. Specifically, a seat he's never run for. That I did. How many did he get? Probably less than me. I would assume.
Actually, probably if you counted all the write-in votes over his entire career, it's probably pretty close.
I bet it's not. And again, Kanye West.
Dr. Dre for president, Eminent for VP.
Kanye West only got 70,000 votes. So I'm basically 30 times Kanye West.
And you've never dressed up in a bush outside of your ex's house,
Yet.
to the best of my knowledge.
Yet. It's because we're still together. Give it some time. Give it a little bit of time.
Oh.
So this episode, of course, is brought to you by the... Oh, hold on. No, we already did that. Yep. We're now... But you know what isn't whatever we were just talking about? Why, of course, the Mudwater Mushroom Coffee Replacement Cacao Rapid Fire segment brought to you, of course... Oh, no, wait. Oh, no. Hold on. Crap. Okay.
What is happening?
No, hold on.
Okay.
No. Okay, there we go. The Mudwater Coffee Replacement Cacao Rapid Fire segment brought to you by Mudwater, the most aptly named sponsor that we have at Muddy Waters Media. If you woke up today and said, Spike, Matt, I am sick and tired of coffee. I've had such a rough day. Let me tell you, man, my day's been rough. I went to, I'm Polish, and I'm just sick of the Polish jokes, and I can't take it anymore. Just because I'm Polish, everyone's giving me a hard time. I recently, I was at a shop. I went to the store, and I told the guy, I said, I'll have a Polish sausage. And he goes, well, I guess you must be Polish. And I said, wait a second, man. I'm sick of the racism. I said, wait a second, man. How would you figure that I'm Polish just because I asked for a Polish sausage? I mean, what if I asked for some French fries? Would you think that I'm a French fella? If someone came in here, supposing someone came in here and asked for a Greek salad, would you think that person's a Greek person? If I came in here and I asked for an English muffin, would you say that I was English? Some guy comes in here and he says he wants some Canadian bacon. Would you think that guy's a Canadian?
Yes.
Suppose a fellow was to say that he wanted some Swiss cheese. Would you think that guy would be Swiss? Or maybe if you thought that someone came in and they asked for some Belgian waffles, I guess you'd think that guy would be Belgian. Or suppose maybe some fella came in here and said that he wanted a German bratwurst. Would you suppose that guy was that fella was a German fella? Then I imagine if someone came in here and said that they wanted some Swiss cheese. I gave a lot of examples because I'm just racist. You really gotta beat it into their head. Would you say that guy was Swiss? Oh man, you got it all wrong. You got it all wrong. I already gave that one. Swedish meatballs. What if a guy came in here, said he wants some Swedish meatballs? I bet you think he was Swedish. Oh, you got it all wrong. You got to stop thinking like that. What on earth would make you think that just because I ordered a Polish sausage that I'm Polish? And he said, well, first of all, it's a hardware store. Anyway, I don't want coffee anymore. I want instead something made out of something like, I don't know, masala chai, cacao, mushrooms, turmeric, sea salt, cinnamon, and literally nothing else. Then I don't want you to think that I'm a mud person just because I want that. Well, folks, I have some fantastic news for you. We have exactly that. Mudwater has a coffee alternative that they sell that is literally made out of all of those things that I just said. How do those taste together? Well, you're going to want some honey. But if you go to muddywatersofreedom.com/mud, you can get your Mudwater starter pack today. Matt?
I'm waiting for the cease and desist from the Norm Macdonald estate any day.
Jokes aren't patented. Jokes aren't patented.
It's true. They are not. Just ask Louis C.K.
Oh,
Speak.
I don't want to talk.
Jeffrey Toobin stole his joke.
God. Oh, his funniest one too. Oh.
Oh. Speaking of Poland, while in Poland,
Speaking of Poland, wow. Yes.
Kamala Harris was asked about inflation in these United States and when we as Americans may see a break in the rising prices. After attempting, I should let you read this because I have no idea how to say this. After attempting to let Polish President Duda.
What do you think? You think that just because I'm a Polish guy that I know how to spell the Polish president's name?
I know how to spell it. I don't know how to say it.
I don't know. I'm not Polish.
Andrzej Duda. She attempted to let the Polish president answer the question, and then she fumbled her way through an answer, which brings us to our newest segment.
Deep Thoughts by Kamala Harris.
In terms of the discussions that the President, Johannes, and I had, they ranged in subject, including the issue of the Black Sea, and I'll let him explain in more detail as he would like. But we are, again, fully aware and apprised, because we are in constant communication with the President, with his administration here, about the concerns that they have about the entire region and, frankly, the vulnerability. All you have to do is look at the map.
Now, you may be sitting there wondering, Matt, you silly bitch, you said that question was about inflation. Yes, I did. And here was the question. How long should Americans expect? How long should we be bracing for this historic inflation in some unprecedented gas prices?
And after looking to her left at the leader of another country and trying to...
Who apparently was not Polish President Andrzej Duda, according to what she said, but she could have gotten that wrong too. I don't know.
I think she did. I think she did. We're going to have some Kamala jokes in the future, and they will end in, well, first of all, this is a hardware store. But then they'll also end with her cackling for 15 minutes straight. But after looking to her left and desperately trying to figure out I'm going to say something else poorly. I will continue to say that the winner of the debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris was the fly that landed on Mike Pence's head.
Yes.
Like, that's clear.
At this point, assuming, I don't think that it will be, but assuming that the presidential and vice presidential tickets for the Democrats is the same in 2024.
Yes. I
could see her getting asked a question and turning to her Republican opponent and just going, do you have anything you'd like to? No. Okay.
I've been speaking with my Republican colleague about something completely different than what you asked me, and I would just like you to know that I'm going to answer that poorly as well. Russia is a big country. Ukraine is a tiny country.
What was the one I had in here before I found this one today? It was the one I sent you.
We still have that one. Is that not later in the segment?
No, that's not later in the segment, just because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do 2 deep thoughts by Kamala Harris in one episode.
Let's do it. Here comes another Deep Thoughts with Kamala Harris.
Deep Thoughts by Kamala Harris.
Imagine all the heavy-duty vehicles that keep our supply lines strong and allow our economy to grow. Imagine that they produced zero emissions. Well, you all imagined it. That's why we're here today. Because we have the ability to see what can be, unburdened by what has been, and then to make
I'm
the possible actually happen.
I'm convinced that she is now impersonating Maya Rudolph, impersonating her.
That's actually a really good theory. Actually, that's that's the best theory I could come up with. Either that, or she has just straight up caught the senility from Joe, and she has
the Omicron variant of senility. Yeah, yep,
yeah, and she
that's a good one.
I sent that to multiple people when I made it on Monday. I think I made that.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say who. I think this person is in the comments actually. And she said, that answer was so stupid. I just lost my engineering degree.
I lost mine as well.
Yeah,
A tragic Kamala Harris watching accident. I don't even know what she said. It started good. It's like, imagine that, all the things that, we need to provide us with and imagine that it has no infrastructure. Well, you just imagined it. And then some other shit. Like, then we're going to unburden the present by what has been in the past. And then the possible is going, it's like, what? This is like, it sounded like a tent revival. Like if you believe it, you can achieve it.
Sense.
Just imagine it and give me your money.
Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
That at least is good, though. That makes sense. It's kind of from the same BS factor, but it at least is concise. That was like, we can now, we're going to achieve. And she was so giddy to say it. Like she just thought she said she just walked up and dropped some serious knowledge there.
Oh yeah. She was
very proud of that.
She was dropping some big energy on that one.
By the way, breaking news, Ukraine is actually not a small country. Thomas Bussy says, or Bus says, Ukraine is bigger than France. It's actually 20,000 square miles larger than France. So Ukraine is not a small country.
But in comparison to Russia, it is.
That's fair.
I mean, you and I are not small people. Like for anybody who doesn't know, Spike and I are literally the exact same size. So
like that, it's insane.
Yeah, we're like that. Our hands, when you put them together,
are the same exact size. Yeah, no, we're like literally the same size people. Yeah,
we are exactly the same size. I don't know what Spike weighs, but I'm willing to guess that it's real close, within a pound or two of me at any given moment. So you and I are not. We're not small people. We're normal, average sized.
Yeah, we're like average sized people. Yeah.
If you put us next to, say, Brian, he has this show.
Oh, Nichols? Brian Nichols?
Brian Nichols. If you put us,
he's a giant monster of a human. I didn't know that.
I didn't either until I saw a picture of him next to you.
I meet him. He's like, Brian Nichols. Who the hell is this?
Are you gonna eat my toes?
Yeah, I was like, to get away from my wife. Run. Tasha was there, and we pulled into the Delaware convention, and he came out to me. He was like, run, Dad, here are the keys. And I was like getting in front of him. Don't just take me. My wife is innocent. Like, and it turned out it was Brian Nichols. No, he's like 7'8".
He's huge.
600 pounds of pure muscle. He's the big. He towered over me. So yes, he is the Russia to my Ukraine.
Yeah, he is the Russia to our Ukraine. Yes. So speaking of huge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The House is set to vote this week on legislation to revoke Russia's normal trade status. And on top of that, because that's not going to do anything, because China's just going to do everything. And then Saudi Arabia is going to start accepting the Chinese, not the end, the U, I don't know how to pronounce it, for oil, and everything's just going to get screwed.
The renminbi
On top
yuan.
of that, what is it?
It's called the renminbi and the yuan.
Is it the yuan?
The yuan, but then they call it the renminbi or something like that. It's weird.
Okay. On top of that, which we're going to get into this a little bit later, Biden is set to sign, well, Biden did sign a government funding package, which includes $13.6 billion in humanitarian and military assistance to Ukraine. Well, that's a good question. Is he bigger than Glenn Jacobs?
He's comparable.
And
He's
even
comparable
though
in size to Glenn Jacobs.
that's impressive.
Glenn Jacobs, yeah, because I've met them both and stood next to them and felt like a very small man next. I felt like the Ukraine. I felt like Kamala Harris is like, well, Spike Cohen is a very small person, and
Yeah, when standing next to Brian Nichols
and Glenn Jacobs,
Jacobs.
decided to invade him. So basically, that's bad.
That's bad.
I don't like that.
And even though the administration, Wednesday's normally my day off, my brain is
That's
like,
not
checked
good.
out.
That isn't
No,
good.
it's not good.
I've decided to invade you. I don't.
I don't want this at
don't
all.
want this
Maybe
to
I can
happen
get
at
Joe
all.
Biden to help. No, you can't.
Like Zoom call Joe Biden, please. You're the leader of the world.
Can I get $13.6 billion to
I need
fend off
some
Glenn
money
Jacobs?
and a MiG fighter, please.
Right. And even though the administration has gone back and forth on whether or not America will be aiding Ukraine with old Russian MiGs,
Yes.
which apparently they have now decided, because Biden said, no, we're not going to do that. To not aid them with that. Biden has sworn, we will not fight World War III in Ukraine.
And we will send money and food aid to save Ukrainian lives. We're going to welcome Ukrainian refugees with open arms if, in fact, they come all the way here. And as we provide this support to Ukraine, we're going to continue to stand together with our allies in Europe and send unmistakable message that we will defend every inch of NATO territory, every single inch, with a united, galvanized NATO. One movement. That's why I moved over 12,000 American forces along the borders with Russia, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Romania, etc. Because they move once. Granted, if we respond, it is World War III, but we have a sacred obligation.
That's a cult. If we do something, it will end the world, but we have a sacred obligation, is a cult. That's what someone in a cult would say. We have to end the world because we have a sacred obligation. Cult.
Yes.
Hillbop cult.
On NATO territory, a sacred obligation, Article 5. And we will not, although we will not fight the Third World War in Ukraine. Putin's war against Ukraine was never be a
Just in
victory.
Ukraine.
Democrats are rising to meet the moment, rallying the world on the side of peace and security. We're showing the strength and we'll never falter. But look, the idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III. Okay? Let's get it straight here, guys. That old expression, don't kid a kidder.
Now, he's not wrong. And I also want to say, I think it's because of overwhelming popular opinion against it. But Biden, for all of the saber rattling, he didn't send the MiGs. This military support is a lot less than I think Bush would have done or Obama would have done. He got out of Afghanistan. I don't know if it's because he's old or because, again, a popular opinion thing, but it hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be in terms of trying to conflagrate tensions.
So it is as bad as I thought it would be. Him getting out of Afghanistan, it made sense. I figured that he was going to do that.
I did as well, yeah.
Yeah, I figured he was going to do that. Not in the way that he did it, but I figured that he was going to pull people out after somebody coming up with a plan, as opposed to, well, this party's dead now, let's roll out.
Right.
So I figured there was going to be something there. When it comes to this, I've got some theories that I won't talk about because, conspiracy stuff that I'm batting 1,000 over here on predictions, so I don't want to be wrong.
Yes.
But I've got some theories on that. But everything that he is doing, he's talking about how that the U.S. and America has been great leaders throughout all of this, and they've been literally leading by following. They're like, okay, what are they doing? Okay, what are they doing? Okay, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And then they're doing, like, it's the exact opposite of leading. But claiming to be the leaders. They're doing the exact opposite of leading.
Yes.
And I expected that to be the thing that they were doing. And I think he is waiting for a NATO country to join into this war. Because immediately after he said this, Putin bombed like 1 mile or 2 miles from the Poland border to be like, they're a NATO country. That's within the realm. Are you going to do something? Because he knows that Biden won't, unless, Poland or Germany or France or England or anybody else over there that's in NATO will jump in and join that fight. And then Biden will be like, well, we have to, because, Article 5 says that we have to, and we're members of this cult. Right.
No.
So this is kind of exactly how I figured this was going to go.
Also,
go ahead.
No, I was going into the next thing.
Now, okay. So remember, even though this president said that we're not going to fight World War III in Ukraine, which means that we could fight it around Ukraine, and we aren't going to fight it for Ukraine, but if any of the other countries over there that are in NATO, he also, having absolutely nothing to do with Russia, I don't know the question that led to this answer. He is the same person who said this.
So we established a new civil rights cause of action for those whose intimate images were shared on the public screen. How many times have you heard, I'll bet everybody knows somebody somewhere along the line, that in an intimate relationship, what happened was the guy takes a revealing picture of his naked friend or whatever in a compromising position, and then literally, in a sense, blackmails or mortifies that person. Send it out, put it online.
Yes, we've all. He who has not done that, cast the first stone. I don't know anyone who's done that.
When I first saw that, I probably watched it 15 times in a row and just giggled the entire time at Joe Biden talking about revenge porn.
Yeah. And saying it in the context of, I think we've all know someone who's done that. No. I don't actually know anyone who's done that. It doesn't surprise me that you do. And
I may know somebody it's happened to. I may know somebody it's happened to.
I don't think I know anyone it's happened to. If they have, they didn't say
and
anything.
That's why I say may know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I actually know anybody it's happened to, but I think that I've heard reference to it.
Yeah. And we're not spring chicks. We know quite a few people. We've seen some things.
Yeah.
I think this was a glimpse into just how sordid it is in the realm of politicians, that he's like, yeah, I'm sure everyone's seen it. I've seen it a million times. I'm sure they've seen it too. Where someone takes a naked photo of their buddy, their friend, and then so forth.
That was the other part.
I'm gonna do it again. Hold on. I don't want to quote the man out of turn.
So we established a new civil rights cause of action for those whose intimate images were shared on the public screen. How many times have you heard? I'll bet.
Now see, people are trying to clap.
He should have stopped.
He could have just stopped and let him clap. Like they were like, oh God, please just stop and we'll clap. And then nope.
Everybody knows somebody somewhere along the line.
And they're like, oh, just shut up.
That in an intimate relationship, what happened was the guy takes a revealing picture of his naked friend or whatever in a compromising position.
Naked friend.
And then
Naked friend
literally
or
in a sense,
whatever.
blackmails or mortifies that person. Somewhere along the line. That in an intimate relationship, what happened was the guy takes a revealing picture of his naked friend or whatever in a compromising.
His naked friend or whatever. That's how he describes sexual relationships.
I have, in my time of being alive, spent the night next to many of my friends.
Naked
Spikers.
friends? I was not a naked friend.
You were not a naked friend.
No.
You may have been in a compromising position. I don't know. I was asleep.
No, and we had a pillow fort between us. So
We did have a pillow fort between us.
we created a wall of pillows so that we didn't
did,
accidentally
wall of
touch each
pillows.
other. Yeah.
That's right. We did. We did. The voice of Deep Thoughts by Kamala Harris. I have slept next to him as well. We weren't naked. I wasn't. I don't know about him. I don't want to speak
Probably
out of
also
turn.
not.
Yeah, probably not. But I did not take pictures of any of my friends to post them online in any sort of compromising positions, which is weird because that seems like something I would have done to, especially the voice of Deep Thoughts with Kamala Harris.
But again, those are your friends, not your naked friends or whatever. Which is, again, this is our president's way of describing a sexual relationship. Your naked friend or whatever.
Or whatever. Was he talking about a sexual relationship?
I think that was his version of trying to degender sexual relationships. Well, you know, your naked, friend or whatever. Like, you can't say wife or girlfriend. Now, he did say guy, so the perpetrator is still a man.
The perpetrator
Still a
identifies
man.
as
Always, but
identifies as a man.
identifies as a man. But making him a man. But the victim is the naked friend or whatever. The LGBT friendly term of naked friend or whatever.
That's the pre-boomer term for LGBT.
Yes, that's the silent generation term for a non-binary term. Your naked friend or whatever. LGBTQ plus approved. So, speaking of, well, anyway,
Speaking of other insanity.
speaking of whatever, on Thursday, 30 of the top TikTok stars Zoomed with White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Matt Miller, who is a special advisor for communications at the White House National Security Council. Let's see what they were told.
Why is gas so expensive, and why is the United States inflation rate at a 4-time decade high? I had the opportunity to ask the White House why gas down the street is $7, and here's what they said. The obvious reason: we are getting out of a 2-year pandemic. When use goes up, price goes up. But the call was predominantly about Ukraine and Russia, so how does that relate? Russia is one of the top 3 producers of oil, and it is actually their #1 revenue source. Now, with Putin starting this horrific fight between Ukraine and Russia, nobody wants to work with him and do an international trade. So, with people being scared of war and limited resources, prices are bound to go up as well. For the people who can't pay $7 for a gallon of gas, there's an app called Gas Buddy that shows you the cheapest gas near you, as well as a link in my bio to donate to the misplaced refugees of Ukraine.
You could save as much as 8 cents
If you're lucky.
by using Gas Buddy.
These are the talking points from the White House. That girl.
Yes, that was the White House talking point. Have you tried Gas Buddy?
That girl, in one of the articles that I was reading about this entire thing, she said, "I'm so happy to be the first Gen Z White House correspondent." That's called a shill, TikToker.
Yeah, no, you literally just proudly parroted some of the shittiest White House talking points. This is all because of Russia and Ukraine. It's not because of the fact that the U.S. and Western world has made themselves reliant on dictatorial foreign regimes for their energy needs. It's their fault for selling it to us. Also, Gas Buddy. I can't even believe she said that.
You know that Matt Miller.
No, they told her to say that.
Yeah,
she didn't know about
100%.
Gas Buddy.
Gas Buddy or Jen Psaki said, "Hey, don't use Gas Buddy."
That's like a joke. The White House press secretary today, in response to questions about gas prices, said, "Hey, why don't you use Gas Buddy?" Ha 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 ha. Like they're.
So, as we've covered before, according to official reports that are lies, because math exists, we don't get a large. They say that we get 8% of our oil from Russia, but math exists.
Yes.
And it's not 8%.
It's like what, 3 or 4%, right?
3 or 4%. Yeah, it's like 3 or 4%. So we aren't getting the massive amount of oil from Russia that they've been saying that we are getting. Now, as that TikToker said, more people are driving, so gas prices are up, according to that White House correspondent from TikTok.
Not from last year.
Yeah. So last week when that meeting happened, oil barrels were roughly $125 a barrel.
Right.
$125 a barrel. As of last night, because I forgot to check today, they were $96.25.
Let me see what they are right now.
Yeah. Which means that with a, what is that, a 20% drop-ish? With a 20% drop, we should be seeing a 20% drop in gas prices, which
it's 95.49, so it's about the same right now. Yeah.
Okay, it's about the same. Which I have not seen. It's funny how the gas prices went up really quick, but they're not going back down. So Psaki will constantly say that there are 9,000 leases that aren't being used right now. And that's the reason that gas prices are what they are. This is, Yeah, there's like a mild amount of truth to that, being there are roughly 9,000 oil leases that aren't being used. That is true. What you aren't hearing is what you will never see on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, or anywhere else, is that if you were to look at the number of oil rigs in America now, you can see the number is still lower than pre-pandemic levels. So pre-pandemic, which we'll say March of 2020, sure, 771 oil rigs in America. And then when the pandemic hits, we drop down to the 250 range, and then slowly it's been creeping back up to 601 as of January of this year.
And even the pre-pandemic levels had already been dropping for 2 years when they peaked around 1,077.
Right. So you also have to look at the Interior Department approvals to drill oil and gas wells on public lands have dropped significantly. Just because somebody has a lease doesn't mean they have approval to drill.
Yes.
So you can go and you can collect all of these leases, but if you can't get approval, you can't drill. And then they're saying, well, they're not drilling. We don't know why. They have the leases. So back in early 2021, the Biden administration destroyed the Trump administration's permitting record in its first year. And they did it all in like a month. They have not been permitting at all this year. I think, okay, good. I did put it in there. The Bureau of Land Management in January approved just 95 permits for oil and natural gas wells across federal lands in the U.S., a plunge from 643 last April. Which means we're not going to be getting a lot more rigs going up.
Yeah. They have to be able to contract rigs to drill the wells, and then they have to have build a sufficient inventory of permits before the rigs are contracted. They don't have that. They just have leases. That doesn't mean anything. If I have a lease on a piece of land, but I don't have a permit to build a home, and then the government says, why aren't you building a home? Well, I need you to let me. That's why.
Right. So producers have to put together their drilling plans, secure rights of way, and work with state and private landowners, which, as we can all guess, is very burdensome, especially when dealing with state and local governments for these rights of ways and all of that. So you may have the rights to the lease, but if you haven't gotten a permit to drill, because like we've covered, they are not the same thing. So even though there are 9,000 leases out there, we can assume, and let's assume that most of the 9,000, if not all of the 9,000, are viable, which they aren't.
Yeah, they aren't. Many of them are not viable. Yeah.
Right. Many of them are not viable. But let's assume that most of them, if not all of them, are viable. That doesn't mean that every single leaseholder has a permit to drill. And if they don't have the permit, they can't get a rig, or if they don't have enough permits, they can't get a rig. And if they can't get a rig, they can't drill. It's weird. I put, they can't oil.
They can't oil.
They can't oil.
They can't oil us.
It's not
oil me.
It's not because we aren't drilling on the 9,000 unused leases that oil prices are what they are. It's because government.
So anyway, if you use the Gath Buddy app, you can actually save money on Gath, and also I have a link in my bio to help the people of Ukraine. Also, that's how you're
I could have sworn she said Syrian.
Hold on. Let me go back to it, because I don't trust this chick.
No,
why is gas so expensive, and why is the United States...
Hold
on. Nobody wants to work with him and do an international trade. So with people being scared of war and limited resources, prices are bound to go up as well. For the people who can't pay $7 for a gallon of gas, there's an... up as well. For the people who can't pay $7 for a gallon of gas, there's an app called Gas Buddy that shows you the cheapest gas near you, as well as a link in my bio to donate to the misplaced refugees of Ukraine.
Oh, she did say Ukraine.
It was Ukraine.
Yeah.
I am going to parrot talking points from the administration because I was told by social media and popular culture that they're good and the last people are bad, but they're good. And they wanted me to let you know that everything that's happening is not their fault. It's totally the fault of someone else. And but also there's an app that will save you like less than 1% of what you're paying for gas. And also I want to help whatever the new current thing is.
Last week I was shilling for vaccines.
Was she?
I have no idea.
Hi, everybody. I have giant breasts, and there's some popular music that I put in my thing to help it go up the algorithm. And I support
Was there
the
popular
current
music
thing.
in that? God, if that gets us a strike, I'm going to be so mad.
It was so, I don't think it's going to pick up the thing. I have some music in the background, and also I support the current thing. Anyway.
That's what it is.
Speaking of supporting something that you should support, that's a current thing. We are currently thinking the personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call-in moment, which I probably should have checked to see if anyone left any comments. Because some of y'all aren't trying to leave comments and questions anymore like you were before. But let's see. There's one. Okay, there's one. The personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call-in moment. If you're watching this and thinking, I want to sue. I don't know who I want to sue. I want to sue that chick. I bet she's in Florida. Well, if she is, and you feel personally injured by it, then you should contact Chris Reynolds, personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, by going to chrisreynoldslaw.com. If you're personally injured by anyone in the great state of the free state of Florida, then you, too, can have Chris Reynolds represent you while you are being personally injured or after the fact, so you can show damages. And then he'll take you to court, and they'll go and you'll say, that guy personally injured me. And they'll go, that's a lie. I didn't do that. I was perfectly fine. And then Chris Reynolds will say things, and the jury will say, guilty, guilty, guilty. And they'll give you millions
jury
of dollars.
trials.
For personal injury? Yeah, sometimes. Either a jury or a judge will say, guilty, 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 and then you get millions of dollars. Personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, chrisreynoldslaw.com. Now, we have one call from Midwest Guy, and we're going to play it right now.
Here, Matt and Spike. This is Midwest Guy calling in on the Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, anchor call-in moment. TM. Thanks for taking my call yet again. I really got something on my mind here that's just been keeping me a little baffled this week. And that's, we found out that Elon Musk sent over his Starlink to Ukraine. And so I'm just wondering, what's the libertarian position on this here, guys? Right? I know, libertarians like to be isolationists, right? But, what about Elon Musk? Is he out here, he's sending out help to foreign entities? Are we okay with that? Do we like that? I don't know. You got to tell me.
Yeah, so thank you for that question. Let me do a common misconception. We're not isolationists. The alternative to bombing and invading and destabilizing countries around the world isn't being a shut-in who has no engagement with anyone. That's isolationism is like what the Japanese did in the 17th and 18th century, or for actually a few hundred years, where they shut themselves off from the rest of the world. No trade, no relations. They were just a shut-in society. That's isolationism. What we propose is non-interventionism. What you do every day, which is not being a mass murderer that goes around killing people and coming up with flimsy excuses to invade and aggress upon other people, but also not just staying in your house and refusing to talk to anyone. You go and you're a productive member of society and you have loved ones and so forth. That we propose non-interventionism by government. Now, libertarians believe that private actors can do whatever they want. True government neutrality is if Elon Musk wants to have Starlink go over Ukraine and provide them with internet access, great. That's his. He made that. So he can go and do that. If Elon Musk also decides, which he has, to not ban Russian media from Starlink, great. Also great. That's a choice he has made because it's his. So we believe if Americans want to help in Ukraine, they want to go over, they want to go fight, they want to go over and provide, they want to sell or donate weapons or food aid or whatever else they want, they're more than welcome to do so. And anyone who doesn't want to, doesn't have to. Which means that the government should stay out of it, because that would be forcing all of us to finance through taxes and inflation the cost of doing that. And also expose all of us to the potential blowback as a result of that. So that's the libertarian take, not isolationism, but non-interventionism, and allowing people to do as they wish with their justly acquired private property, which Starlink is an example of that.
Yep. And if he wants to challenge Vladimir Putin to a fight, I wouldn't challenge him to a fight, but if Elon wants to, you do that, Elon.
So
you
I
absolutely should do that.
I love this. So what was great about this? Hold on, let me see if I can find it. So for those who don't know what Matt's talking about, I'm going to find it. Elon Musk challenged Vladimir Putin to quote unquote single combat to crap, no one's finding it. Elon Musk challenged Vladimir Putin to single combat, and in that the stakes were the Ukraine, and oh crap, no one has it. Okay, so there was this picture going around, and it was a size chart that showed that Elon Musk was like several inches taller, because I guess Elon Musk is 6 something, and Vladimir Putin is shorter than us, and that he was a few inches taller than Vladimir Putin. And I thought, yeah, you guys are doing this wrong. Vladimir Putin was the head of the KGB, having worked his way through the ranks of the Russian military and intelligence services to become the head of them during the Soviet Union. Now, granted, Vladimir Putin is a shorter gentleman, and he also is well into his 60s. Is he 70 yet? How old is Vladimir Putin?
I don't think he's 70 yet.
69. Wow, 69. He's 69. Nice. He's 69 years old. Nice. And so he is older. And yeah, he's shorter. But you know those videos you watch where you say, watch this old man beat up this young whippersnapper, and the old man's like a trained boxer and the whippersnapper's just some schmuck. And they're like, this teaches you a powerful lesson. Don't mess with the elderly. Nope. It teaches you another lesson. It's not don't mess with the elderly. Most elderly people you could easily beat up. Don't, but you could. That particular elderly person knows how to fight. Vladimir Putin knows how to fight. I'm not convinced. And he's in good shape. I'm not convinced that Elon Musk knows how to fight. I don't know the kind of shape he's in. So, it's not going to happen.
My guess is not the best.
I mean, he's not like morbidly obese or anything like that, but
right. Like he's in he's in your average shape. Like I'm guessing that guy's not. Yeah, that guy's not hitting the gym and like taking fighting classes. No,
which he should be. If he's challenging the former head of the KGB to a fight with such high stakes, he should be hitting the gym and the fighting classes.
Yes.
He also didn't specify single, like, fisticuffs. He said single combat. So, Vladimir Putin has quite an arsenal at his disposal that he could singly use
to destroy Elon Musk.
Possibly at the molecular level.
And so, yeah.
But it's his right. Going back to the point of this, he has the right to try to commit suicide by a KGB agent.
Yes. And I just want to point out, he also has the right not to shut off Teslas for everybody in Russia.
Yes. Can you imagine the precedent of that? There are people cheering on, shut off all the Teslas. Is that what you want? Do you want your car shut off? Because you know why they're saying to shut off they're saying to shut off the Teslas of all the Russians because their government is bombing a country and invading a country.
Yep.
Where do you live?
97% of you live in the United States. The other 3%, no.
What do you think the people of Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Yemen, Libya, Tajikistan, like the whole region, Sudan, Somalia, Nigeria, what do you think they would say to Elon Musk about your car? It is incredible to me.
Shut off their Visa and MasterCard. Shut off their Teslas. Shut off
everything. Make them
shut
suffer.
off their app stores. Make it so they can't get monetized on YouTube. Shut off all of that.
Shut off everything. Shut off their internet. Shut off their power. Shut off everything that they need until their government stops doing this.
Yep.
Y'all need to stop. And it's not y'all. Most of you are all nodding your head in agreement. But these people need to stop. They have got to stop advocating for everyday civilians of a country. I mean, you want to talk about throwing stones in a glass house. There is no country on earth in current existence, government on earth in current existence, who has been more aggressive on the world stage than the United States. But they get their news from this.
Why is gas so...
So of course they'd say something stupid like that. So that's been your personal injury attorney, Chris Reynolds, attorney at law, Anchor Cullen moment. So speaking of the spending bill, which we talked about 15 minutes ago.
Much longer than 15 minutes ago. President Biden has signed into law another COVID relief bill that doesn't have any COVID relief in it. A sweeping $1.5 trillion bill that funds the government through September and provides the $13.6 billion in assistance for Ukraine amid the Russian invasion. Now, as you can probably guess, this bill was a light read of 2,700.
Yeah,
just breeze through it in the day you had to think about, less than a day you had to vote on it. 2,700 pages and funds the government through the current fiscal year and gives Congress a 21% raise.
It's actually worse than that. It gives them a 21% increase to their budget.
Oh, that is worse.
Yeah.
That is worse.
Now, it also includes 13.6 billion in humanitarian and security assistance to address the Russian invasion of Ukraine, or as we put it, less than 1% to make you talk about that instead of the other 99+%.
Yes. The Democrats lauded a 6.7% increase to non-defense discretionary spending, while the GOP touted a $42 billion increase for defense spending.
Bipartisanship.
Have you read this thing?
Well, no one's read this thing, but I've read the bullet points. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
read
I've
them.
I can't wait for the punchline at the end of this one. It said the deal achieves dollar for dollar parity for defense and non-defense increases, as well as an 11% increase from the previous fiscal year for the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah. They touted that.
They
The
did.
people who just recently said everyone's a terrorist.
Yeah, Spike and I are terrorists because we talk about this stuff on the internet. That was actually
And you're
a
a terrorist for
definition.
watching it, and everyone
And
you
you're
know
a
is a
terrorist,
terrorist
right.
because they've expressed concerns about various government narratives.
Yes.
Like everyone is a terrorist, according to a group that got an 11% increase in their funding.
Yep. And this was touted as a COVID relief bill, but billions of dollars in COVID-19 funding was scrubbed from the package hours after its unveiling on Wednesday, after a revolt from House Democrats frustrated over plans to pull the money from relief already allocated to states.
So they complained that the current money that was being spent
Wasn't enough.
used for other stuff. Like when Joe Biden raided the COVID relief funds shortly after he became president to triple funding for the militarization of the police from about $130 billion to either just under or just over $400 billion. And so their response was, okay, well, then we're not going to do any more spending. I'm okay with that.
I mean, but when they touted it as it's going to be the next COVID relief bill, and then they scrapped all of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Leaders in the House are expected to set up another vote on COVID-19 funding measure without the offsets in the lower chamber in days ahead, but they don't think that it has a chance of passing the Senate, which, by the way, real quick on the Senate, switching gears, yesterday they voted unanimously to never change the clocks again. And the fact that it took them this long to get here is not surprising at all.
Nope. And it's still, that was just the Senate. The House hasn't
That
taken
was just
it
the
up.
Senate. Yeah.
And
the House,
after
I could see the House screwing that up.
Oh, absolutely. Nancy Pelosi will screw this up. And after complaints from I believe the airline industry and another major industry, they are, if it does get passed, it won't go into effect until November of next year. Instead of just letting the current time be the current time.
Why would that be a problem for the airline?
I have no idea. I do know that the Association of Convenience Stores said that they were against it because kids shouldn't have to go to school in the dark, because that's a concern of the convenience stores, which means that there's an actual reason that they're against it that they won't say. So instead they said that shit. Bipartisanship.
I'm going to have to think about why the convenience stores are thinking that.
Yeah, no, I've been spending most of today trying to figure that out, because when I read that quote, I thought, well, that's not the reason, because that has nothing to do with convenience stores. So then I started thinking, what would the convenience stores give a shit about what time it is outside? And then I couldn't figure it out. I ran out of time. But there's a reason, and it's a bad reason, because instead they said that. So if any of you can think of what that reason is, drop it in the comments there if you're watching this live. Drop it in the comments even if you're watching it afterwards. I probably won't see it, but someone will. So the Hyde Amendment was one of the best-known riders to be reinstalled in the appropriations legislation after Democrats remitted it last year. For those who don't know, the Hyde Amendment prohibits the use of federal funds for abortions in most cases. Can you imagine voting Democrat? Because you're like, well, they're going to be different than the Republicans, and then they do that. It has been included in annual appropriations bills since it was introduced by Representative Henry Hyde of Illinois, Republican in the 1970s. Joe Biden, the candidate of funding the police and defunding abortions. Imagine voting Democrat.
The Democrats in the House and the Senate and the White House just signed a bill, a spending bill that increased defense spending by $42 billion, and then put in the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits the use of federal funds for abortions in most cases.
Hey, Democrat voter, you're still going to vote for us because we're not Republicans. Of course, the Republican voter said, hey, Republican voter, you're still going to vote for us because we're not Democrat. By the way, this is a $1.5 trillion bill that's going to mostly be paid for through the printing of more money, which means more inflation. Which is why they added $13.6 billion, which is a rounding error in this thing. Because now we're talking about that instead of the fact that this is exactly what creates more inflation. Instead, we're debating on whether the Ukrainians got MiGs or not. Anyway.
So
okay,
Republicans also were ecstatic that the package included the Weldon Amendment, a rider Democrats also previously sought to drop, that bars entities that don't want to provide abortion care from being denied federal dollars. So if you're an entity that's like, no, we don't do abortions here, you still can get federal dollars, which wasn't available last year. So now more places, now abortions don't get federal funding. And if you deny abortions, you get federal funding.
You do get federal funding. They can take the money from the abortions and give them to the anti-abortion people.
And give them to the anti-abortion people.
Hey, Democrat voters. But it's not Trump, because Trump says stupid stuff. Not like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. The Harris rider, which bars the legalization of recreational marijuana sales in the nation's capital, also made its way back into the bill despite Democrat efforts. So you know what they did? You know the people that told you that if you voted for them, they'd make weed legal? Instead,
they just made it illegal.
They just made it, they remade it illegal in the Capitol.
So to be fair,
no, here's where it gets better. Let's say it.
Well, no. Okay. So before I say that part, for a long time, weed was illegal to sell in the Capitol, but weed was legal. So I believe it was on this show. It may have been on a different one that I was on. There was a time in which I was trying to procure weed in the district, and I knew that it was legal there, but I didn't understand how it worked. And because it was illegal to sell and you couldn't have a storefront or anything like that, you had to give somebody a donation for a charity, and then they would give you the weed.
Or you just magically get it.
But that was mainly you gave donations to charity. And so that was how it was. And then it was, okay, now it's legal to sell. So you started seeing shops open up, and now it's gone back to, you're going to have to.
So all those places that paid all that big money, can you imagine what it must cost to get a license to sell weed in Washington, D.C.? And they just went at you?
Yep.
Not it's legal everywhere, but it's illegal in the one place that we can just write whether it's legal or illegal with very little change. Now, to be fair, several of the members who voted for it said that they either weren't following the status of the rider or they weren't even aware it existed, which is kind of why you shouldn't vote for things that you don't know what you're voting for.
Yeah, that's why reading the bill is important, because otherwise that wouldn't have been.
You vote for things that you don't know what happened. A Democrat-led effort to rescind, this is just, if you're a Democrat voter, Democrat-led effort to rescind $1.9 billion that had been allocated for border barrier funds. The wall under the Trump administration also failed. This funds the wall. This bill funds Trump's wall.
And as we learned in the State of the Union, walls do not keep out vaccines.
Yes. Which is why they're funding it. Because you can't, it's not going to stop the vaccines.
That can stop the vaccines.
So now they're okay with it. Before they were worried that the wall would keep out the vaccine. And then when they realized that wasn't true, they said, oh, it just keeps out immigrants? Okay. We don't even like immigrants. We're the Democrats. We're the ones who introduced the anti-immigration laws back in the 100 and some odd years ago anyway. We never liked them. We've hated them. We're the Democrats. Are you kidding me? We thought it was keeping vaccines out.
Even back to the 1980s, they were anti-immigrant.
Bernie Sanders said that the idea of allowing people to come into the country was a Koch brothers invention. The Koch brothers did it to bring down our prices, our wages. These damn immigrants.
There's that famous debate of George Bush and Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
In 1980, where they were talking about what to do about immigration in America. And the difference between George Bush and Ronald Reagan in 1980 and the Republican Party 23 years later, was massively different.
Night and day.
Night and day, completely different. And the Democrats are the same way, except now they're funding border wall. They're voting to fund border walls.
Yeah, no, the Democrats are always the real racists. Let's be clear about that.
Yes.
Always. Even if the Republicans are doing it too, the Democrats are never. They're still the Dixiecrat party. Let's be very, very clear about that. Joe Biden, who is, I mean, if you watch this show, you already know all this anyway, but I'm going to say it because I'm already talking about it. Joe Biden worked with segregationists his whole life. The 1994 crime bill was a way to re-criminalize being poor and black and brown.
Yes.
Like, this entire farce. Can you imagine being in Black Lives Matter and voting for Trump or Biden and like watching this? It's like, the wall. So after they funded the wall, there was also a successful push to reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act as part of the omnibus. It's an effort to bolster domestic violence response at multiple levels of government, as well as efforts to combat dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. For example, everyone here knows someone in a situation where the man, it's always a man, took some photos of their naked friend or whatever. And then, well, anyway. It also outlined a key provision that advocates the so-called boyfriend loophole by prohibiting individuals convicted of a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence against a dating partner from possessing or purchasing firearms or ammunition. Because that's, if you've ever done anything wrong, you should never own a gun unless you're in the government, in which case you should own all of the guns.
Yeah, and then you're fine. So I was trying to look this up when I was doing notes yesterday, and it's tough to find any reliable source of information on what this boyfriend loophole really is. Because like I don't trust sites that are called, gunlover.org. I feel that they're putting some spin.
It's probably a good site, actually. Gunlover.org is probably a good site.
Me and my AR15.com. A news site. But yeah, I was trying to find information on it. And what I kind of have picked up is that prior to the boyfriend loophole was if a fiance or a husband is convicted of a domestic violence situation and is still with the person, still living with the person, still married to the person, still dating, whatever, they cannot own a gun. But if you're a boyfriend not living with the person, convicted of a misdemeanor domestic misdemeanor crimes of domestic violence against the person you are still dating, you could own a gun.
This just closes that loophole.
That just closes the loophole that sort of, it doesn't really give you any, if you are a domestic abuser, the difference between being married and not married is no difference. You can't own a gun either way.
So it didn't really change anything. But
You're right.
But there were two things, anti-gun legislation that was in there. Number one, the ATF.
Joe Hanoush just said the loophole now identifies as the whatever loophole.
Yes, the naked friend or whatever loophole.
The naked friend or whatever loophole.
So there are two bits of pretty bad anti-gun legislation in here. Among God knows what else is in here. I mean, again, 2,700 pages, but two of them. One is that the ATF will now be able to directly deputize local police as ATF agents in states that are Second Amendment sanctuaries in order to get around state law, which opens the Pandora's box of the U.S. government just deputizing people to get around nullification. To which the state should respond by requiring compelling agencies to fire anyone who is deputized by the ATF. It should 100%, if you accept being deputized to get around state law, you should lose your job. That should be the end of that. Because that's now what, moving forward, new Second Amendment sanctuary legislation, and all sanctuary legislation should have in it that if you are deputized by the federal government to get around that law, then you lose your job. Yes. So unless the federal government is ready to pay all of those local cops forever, which they are not, then that should end that. So to recap, in the spending bill that was introduced, mostly sponsored by, voted primarily by, and signed by Democrats, they made it illegal to sell weed in Washington, D.C., where it's legal to sell weed. They increased defense spending by nearly $50 billion. They got rid of COVID relief spending, which is okay because they would have just misappropriated it for something else anyway.
Given it to police.
They would have given it to the cops anyway. They prohibited federal funds for abortions. They moved that money over to medical facilities that won't do abortions. So now you're funding refusal to do an abortion. And then they funded the wall. Far better than that GoFundMe ever could have.
You can say that's $2 billion. You can round 1.9 billion to 2.
Up.
Yeah, that's $2 billion for the wall.
The wall. For Trump's wall.
These are the
not
people.
Just the wall, Trump's wall.
Trump's wall. These are the people. And they increased the scope of the ATF.
Yeah. Which every other agency will now use to say we want that too. So
right.
If you thought that the police were bad, imagine the federal police.
So if you were somebody who voted for Biden, and I doubt any of our viewers voted for Biden, maybe
strongly doubt it.
One or two, maybe who was like, "Oh, this sucks," and now they've learned about us, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, I guess no, it's good.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to your friends and watching this show.
Yes.
But you voted because you're probably pro-choice and you think that abortions should be federally funded, or at least people who refuse to do it shouldn't get federal funding. Well, the Democrats just took that away. And you're
or maybe you wanted
probably,
weed to be legal. Well,
maybe you live in DC or that area and you wanted weed to be legal, and now you well, it's still legal, you just can't sell it, which means you can't buy it.
or maybe you were a libertarian, but damn it, Trump with this damn wall. He's trying to wall off this country and make it a fortress and keep out the immigrants. And frankly, I don't even know if the libertarians have a shot of winning, but I know my libertarian values tell me that we have to build bridges and not walls. So I bit the bullet and voted for Joe Biden. Well, he funded the wall. He's already been using eminent domain to kick people off of their properties to continue building the wall and the money that they already got. But now he's funding more of the wall. No mean tweets, though.
No mean tweets. And I mean, Elon Musk.
Yes, the great negotiators.
The great negotiators of our time up there
yes.
in Congress.
Indeed. The great Democrat hope. Now, I know what you're thinking. Everything is bad news. Every single thing that you have told us today is bad news. Well, it hasn't all been bad news. I got to shoot machine guns. That was from my TikTok.
Were you not invited to the White House?
No.
Shame.
Oh, by the way, this happened while you're watching. This happened, like this whole thing here. This happened, we were like 4 miles from ATF headquarters. I was going to go there and like take a photo next to the sign and put it up and say soon. And I was advised against that by multiple people.
That's a good idea. That was a good idea by them, not you.
I'm going to probably do it in the future, though. I was told that's a bad idea, too.
Yeah. You know, I don't run any part of your campaign stuff. But I would advise against that.
Yeah, that's what everyone. I don't think anyone's actually told me that I should do it. Like literally everyone has told me that's a bad idea, which is why I didn't. If even one person had said that was a good idea. Oh, and this was libertarians mostly that said that. Oh, TK says, what's the deal with the fella that insisted to be in your space? So they have a policy at that gun range that the first time you shoot a machine gun, someone stands behind you with his hand like that far from your shoulder, because if you haven't, and I told him I fired one elsewhere, but if you haven't fired one on their property before, they have someone behind you for the first time that you shoot. And it was funny because they picked the Thompson, which has like no recoil, but they have your hand, he wasn't actually even touching me, but behind me, just in case I don't realize how to shoot a machine gun and I go like that and slip back, they have their hand there. They can stop me from going back and shooting everyone behind me. So once they saw that I actually knew what I was doing, then that never happened again. But that's like he's spotting it, yeah.
Spike is just being modest, as we all remember the story from the Bible of the man who was trying to be healed, who just wanted to reach out and touch Jesus. He figured that was the right time.
That's what it was. Out. He was seeking healing for his terrible misformed ham.
He had terrible carpal tunnel.
Terrible. Heal me, Rabbi.
And he was just reaching out to touch.
And after I shot the gun, I said, someone has touched me.
Showing an amazing amount of restraint not to just shoot the guy who was touching him.
Well, technically he owns the gun, so I felt like, if he wants to,
That's fair.
touch my shoulder, it's okay. Actually, technically he never touched me though. I didn't even realize he was behind me until afterwards. I was like, "Is something wrong?" And he was like, "Oh no, we just do the spotting." I'm like, "I've shot machine guns before," and they're like, "Yeah, we have to do it." And I'm like, "Okay." Oh, this is Jews in Space, by the way.
It's where the lasers are.
Yes. Bye, everybody. Off to check the lasers. So, this has been a special Wednesday edition of the Muddy Waters of Freedom. I know what you're thinking, Spike, that's fantastic. What's up next? Well, what's up next is an incredible episode, right? Next tomorrow? Yeah. Another incredible episode of this guy's show, Matt Wright's show, The Writer's Block on Thursday, usually after the Muddy Waters of Freedom is My Fellow Americans, but this is already Wednesday. So no. Next, why does that say music? Why does that?
What does what say?
It's just music right there.
It does say music right there.
Stop saying music.
Okay.
The hell is what's happening?
Tomorrow on my show, I will be having Bill Redpath out of Illinois on. He was actually supposed to be on a couple of weeks ago, but I was having just every issue in the world, and I believe that I've got them all fixed. So tomorrow I will have Bill Redpath on at 8:00 Eastern.
Yes, 8:00 tomorrow, the Writer's Block, right here, Muddy Waters Media, Bill Redpath, an incredible candidate for Senate.
And then on Friday.
Oh, yes.
Then on Friday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern.
Matinee.
The matinee episode. Okay. At 2:00 on a matinee, all of them will be matinee episodes from now on, of Mr. America, The Bearded Truth. Jason Lyon has on Andy Kennedy, who I've seen down in the comments down there. Andy Kennedy is going to be on with Jason Lyon at 2:00 on Friday.
Andy Kennedy, an elected official with the Libertarian Party. He is elected to the, I believe, the Soil and Water Commission in New Mexico. I think something like that. He has been elected. He's an elected Libertarian. That's what I know. And I went to his convention by Zoom just to tell everyone that I wanted 1,000 Andy Kennedys. And no one there questioned the wisdom of that, which was good. It was nice. It felt good. And so
Joe Hanush wants to know if you get a discount for the matinee. Yes, Joe, you do.
Yes.
It is 20% off. Sure. It's half off what you pay for the primetime version of Muddy Waters.
If you act now, 75% off. Screw it. We're going crazy over at Crazy Matt and Spike's Muddy Waters Media.
And then on Saturday, if you are in Florida, in the Polk County region, I will be at the Bonfire Cookout and Guns event. I think that's what it's called. It might be Cookout Bonfire. I don't know. Something along those lines. For the Polk County Libertarians with Anthony Welty, and then our friends Jovid COVID Botham, Adam the Freeman, who is the voice of the Deep Thoughts with Kamala Harris, and the original co-host of Muddied Waters of Freedom, Mohammed Shaker.
On Saturday.
Everybody should shame Spike because I don't think he's coming.
I have tried moving so much around to be able to go, and it just falls apart in my hands.
Everybody
every time I
shame
try.
Spike.
No, I've deserved shame. Everyone else in Muddy Waters Media, including people that aren't even the former people in Muddied Waters Media, are going to be shooting guns at a bonfire in fucking Florida. Shame me in the comments. Everyone shame me in the comments. Shame, shame, shame. I'm already seeing it. Everyone shame
Yeah, it's
Spike
already
in the
happening.
comments. Hashtag shame
It is
Spike.
already happening.
And I can't even tell you to do anything with me this weekend because I'm not going anywhere this weekend. I just literally... And then on Tuesday next week, join us for another fantastic episode of the Muddy Waters of Freedom, where Matt, Wright, and I parse through the week's events like the chipper little middle-aged men that we are. And then next Wednesday, join me, Spike Cohen, on an incredible episode, my fellow Americans, on next Wednesday. Who my guest? Oh boy, my guest. Who's my guest? Oh, wait till you find out. Wait till we all find out who my guest is next week on a fantastic episode of My Fellow Americans. Who is it? You're not going to believe it. My Fellow Americans. Matt, if someone were to look for the Muddy Waters media on the internet, is that even possible? And if so, how?
Joe Hanoush just figured out why we say that every week.
No, how dare you?
Because, yeah, we don't know who our guest is.
I know.
Of
Of course I know who my guest is. It's my show.
Yeah, let's
You
take a
fool.
look.
Of course I know who my guest. Let's take a look
would
on
know,
over
man.
where it is in there.
Oh, yeah, look at that. You are going to have just the most fantastic guest.
Fantastic guest. It's going to blow your mind. I don't even want to say it yet because I want you guys to have some time to prepare yourselves emotionally for my amazing special surprise guest.
It starts with a Z and doesn't end with an ubi.
Wait, do you know who my guest is?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I have access to your calendar and I don't know who your guest is.
Wait, who starts with a Z and doesn't end with a ubi?
I don't know. Not Zuby.
I had Zuby once. That was fun. That was
I know.
a good show.
I know. That was my favorite.
Matt, if someone
episode
were looking
ever.
for us on the internet, is that even possible? And if so, how?
It is possible. All one would have to
Oh
do
my gosh.
if you were one of the old school people who, instead of enjoying looking at the ruggedly handsome faces of me and my co-host Spike, but instead preferred to listen to the sweet dulcet tones of our voices as you drove to work or drifted off into slumberland, all you would have to do is head on over to anchor.fm
Yes.
/muddied waters.
Oh yeah, Muddied Waters. Anchor. Yeah, gas buddy. You can save like pennies on gas
While
buddy.
you're there, outside of this episode, you'll never hear any promotion for Gas Buddy.
Ever, because it's
Ever.
usually not worth the 2 minutes.
It's not.
You're probably already at the place with the cheapest gas in your area, unless you want to drive like 30 minutes that way to save 2 cents. Do the math.
While you're there, you can leave us messages that we will play live on the Muddied Waters of Freedom.
On anchor.fm /Muddy Waters, not on Gas Buddy. Let's be clear.
Right. Yes, that's a valid point.
Okay.
That is
Okay,
a valid
thank
point.
you.
You can
Yes.
also subscribe. You can also subscribe, and if you were to subscribe for less than a cup of coffee a week, for less than the cost of a cup of coffee a week, you
And even less
get-
than the cost of mud water every week.
yes, that is absolutely
Like
true.
a lot less.
A lot less.
Like
way
less.
Less than the cost of a cup of mud water a week, you can get a discount at the Muddied Waters store. You can get a discount at the Muddied Waters Media Store, or you can, and you get other discounts that I can't think of right now, because I don't think the Stitches and Glitches one.
Yeah,
Go to Stitches and Glitches and put in Muddy
anymore.
Tumblr. Yeah, but you should still put that in.
You should put it in, because it seems like if enough people put it in, they just give it to you anyway.
They give it back.
That's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee. But
It's not a guarantee. No, it's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee. And you get access to the greatest event every month. The most fantabulous event, the heavyweight championship of Muddied Waters events.
Our favorite event.
Our favorite event called the Muddied Zoom.
The Muddied Zoom.
Where all of our subscribers get together on a Zoom call with me and Spike, sometimes Jason, and the rest of the Muddied crew, to talk about whatever we decide to talk about in that minute.
Yes.
Or you can find this in every other episode at muddiedwatersmedia.com.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm going to sign up for all of those things as the very second that this stream ends. I haven't already for some reason, but now I'm going to. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in for this incredible episode. Don't forget, next week, Muddied Waters Media Tumblr, signed by Matt Wright and myself. I'm going to have to figure out how to show this without it being effed up by the freaking green screen. Probably not. But we're going to be doing this. It's special. It's got the birdie on it. It's got Muddy Waters Media on it. It's got at the bottom, it says "Don't need roads," and it says
gonna show. Last week you were like, "Oh, we're not going to show you what's on the bottom until."
And it also, the signature has been, they're not going to remember. In the signatures have been epoxy coated over. So you can wash this and use it, and it won't mess with the signature. I can lick it. Doesn't matter.
Did you just lick the tumbler?
No, I didn't. I did not. I'm not going to lick this. You know how much more money we'd get if I licked this? So we'll be doing that next week. But thanks so much again for tuning in. We love you so much. We can't wait to see you next week. Well, see you tomorrow on Matt Wright Show, the Writer's Block. Then on Friday at 2 p.m. For the Mr. America, the Bearded Truth. And then Saturday in Florida. And then next Tuesday right here for the Muddy Waters of Freedom. Folks, we love you so much. Thanks so much for tuning in. And don't forget, where we're going,
we don't need roads.